Jimmy Butler was ruled out of tonight's Game 2 after taking this very painful looking fall, landing directly on his backside, and since being ruled out with what the team is calling a pelvic contusion. In this video, we'll take a closer look what happened here on the injury, what structures could be involved, and what to expect for his recovery. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal on this channel is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. And this is something that we really don't see too often, these pelvic contusions. And contusion is just another term for a bruise. So when you think of a pelvic contusion, this is a pelvic bruise. Now, a bone bruise is actual microfracture, trauma fracture to the structure of the bone, and a muscle contusion is going to be bleeding within the muscle. So even though it sounds very benign and simple, a contusion can in fact be a pretty significant, but more importantly, painful injury. What's important here is paying attention to where exactly he lands, because that's going to give us a sense of how much of his glute muscles were able to absorb some of this impact versus how much was directly going into the bone, because the bone is the bigger concern. A muscle is there to help cushion and protect the bones as much as it is to help us run, jump, etc. So ideally, we want to land more on the glutes to provide that cushioning and less impact on the bone. I'm concerned here, though, that this is in fact more impact on the bone. As Butler comes down and lands, you see that his lower back is essentially what lands firmly on the ground here. If he was landing a little bit more upright with his trunk flexed a little bit more forward, that would bring the glute max into a better position to help cushion and stabilize and absorb some of that impact. But based on how he comes down here, I'm concerned he landed squarely on not so much his pelvis as opposed to his sacrum. Looking at our biodigital anatomy tool here, I've got the different muscles and bones highlighted on the backside. Of course, the glute maximus is going to be the primary big buttock muscle that sits back here. But as you can see, the glute max doesn't 100% cover all of the low back. In fact, there's going to be this area where the sacrum, which is the lower part of your spine, where your spine is connected to the pelvis, does not have any muscle necessarily that's covering it. So this is a very at-risk area for direct impact to cause a significant contusion or a significant bruising. If we start to hide the glute max muscles, then we can see a little bit more clearly where exactly those bony landmarks, those bony contours are going to be for what could be prone to the contusion. Here you can see that in much better detail. In this anatomic region, what we're going to have is the SI joint is going to be made up of the sacrum connecting to the bones of the ilium or the pelvis. So this right here is going to be the left ilium, the right ilium. That's going to come together to form that kind of bowl of the pelvis. Of course, Chet Holmgren had more of a true pelvic fracture, which I believe was his ilium out here on the side. I would be more worried about this from landing on your side as opposed to landing directly on the back. But this region right here, this flat of the sacrum, is going to be directly exposed to that impact. And so my main concern, I think worst case scenario, is there some sort of true fracture, not just a bruise, of this sacrum bone. The other anatomic landmarks to think about here that we reference, one is going to be something called the PSIS, the posterior superior iliac spine. That's going to be this protrusion right here on the ilium. It's part of our landmarks for how we can palpate and find that sacroiliac joint. Probably no concern to the spine itself. There's going to be some big columns of muscle that go along the backside of the spine to protect the spinal cord itself. But this sacrum bone is going to be the main concern. The tailbone, they talk about landing on his tailbone, that's going to be the coccyx down here. I would not be as concerned about his tailbone in this case. This is going to be more from landing directly like on the point of your buttock, like if you're sitting and then fall down on a sharp surface, as opposed to landing directly on just the flat of the back. Now, in this area, x-rays are notorious for being pretty poor at diagnosing a true fracture. Yes, they're going to show if there's something big, obvious, and displaced. That would absolutely be a worst case scenario. I'd expect him to miss a big chunk of the playoffs, if not all of it. So I would not be surprised if we hear about an MRI or potentially a CT scan coming up tomorrow for Butler. That's going to give you a much better detail of where is that bruising. Is the bruising isolated to the muscle, or is it deeper in the bone itself? If the bruising of the contusion is deeper in the bone itself, but there's not a true fracture, a true crack or separation in the bone, that's going to be rest, pain management, play as soon as you're able to maintain your function, your strength, and your ability on the court. If it's in the muscle, same sort of thing, potentially drain the blood out of the muscle. And as soon as your pain is under better control, get back and play. If we see something about a true fracture in the pelvis, in the sacrum, that is going to be a whole other circumstance, and I would suspect a much longer absence. So we'll hope for the best case scenario. I think I would not be surprised if we see him miss game 3, take some additional time and try to come back in game 4. Some of that might depend on where the Warriors are at. Really, it could be either or. We could see his pain improve pretty drastically over the next couple of days, assuming there's no true fracture, see him back for game 4. But I would not be surprised, based on how much pain he was in already, the quickly being ruled out of the game, if we see him miss game 3 at a minimum, hopefully back for game 4. More information to come, though, I'm sure, with some other imaging tomorrow. Remember, contusion means bruise. Could be a bone bruise, could be a muscle bruise. Worried about the sacrum, that sort of PSIS, posterior portion of the ilium. Hopefully the muscles were able to absorb a lot of this impact, but MRI will likely tell the full story. That's it for the video, everybody. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.